Guys, I've got a hidden gem to share with you that is an amazing office fragrance. So stay tuned to find out my thoughts on this. Oh, I fucked it up. I picked up the wrong bottle. Word to your mother, my name's Steve, this channel is FRAG30 Imperious, and thanks for tuning in. Today I am excited to share with you a hidden gem that was actually recommended by one of my subscribers. It was Artisanal Spoilers recommended this one, so thanks for that. Lots of people recommend lots of fragrances to me, and I do normally sort of always look them up and research them and check them out and check the prices, and sometimes I go for it, sometimes I don't, because it depends if they're similar to what I kind of want. But this one caught my attention when he said it was similar to La Nuit de l'Homme and it was cheap. It was like 20 odd quid. So I'm really chuffed, and this fragrance I ended up getting for about £16 delivered. So it is a hella cheap fragrance, but it is not cheap smelling. The fragrance I'm going to talk about today is Yohji Yamamoto Y3 Black Label. Now I've probably butchered that name, but this is basically a hidden gem. I think there's only been about 2 or 3 maybe other videos on YouTube tops that kind of mention this fragrance. So it is a bit of a hidden gem, not many people talk about it, and as I say, I managed to get this for about £16. Now, before I tell you about the actual fragrance itself and the note breakdown, it's worth checking out the packaging, because again, for the money, it is pretty impressive. So this fragrance comes really well presented, especially for the price. It comes in a really nice kind of black box with simple Y3. It's right in here, I'm not sure if you can pick that up on the camera, and some writing on the back again, just the usual kind of ingredients, etc, etc. But what's really cool about this is it comes as a nice little presentation case, and this is one chunky ass bottle. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Rihanna's Rogue Man, if anybody's kind of tried that. It's a very chunky, I mean, with the lid on, the orange does look like kind of a nice bit of detail, but actually once you kind of take the lid off, it does kind of look a little bit cheap. But it's an absolute solid chunky kind of bottle which you could easily use to cosh over someone's head if they're trying to steal your fragrance collection. So yeah, it's a really good, and the spray is really good as well. So yeah, again, for the money, a great presentation. Now, I'm not going to pretend I know what all of these notes smell like, because there's a couple that are a little bit left field. But at the top you'll get Tagites, I don't know what that is either, elemi and cardamom, and in the mid you'll get cedar, lavender and black pepper, and in the base there's tonka, patchouli and vetiver. So some of you might start thinking, yeah, those notes do sound similar to kind of, you know, some similar notes to La Nuit de l'Homme, and you wouldn't be wrong, because it certainly has that resemblance, but it's definitely not a La Nuit de l'Homme clone. Even though I've said it's not a La Nuit de l'Homme clone, I am going to be referencing that fragrance a bit just to kind of get across how this fragrance smells. But as I say, it's definitely not a clone, so if you do own La Nuit de l'Homme, don't think that this is redundant, because it's kind of not. But that said, you may decide not to buy this for that reason. But so, at the top, I've just sprayed this on my arm. It kind of opens with this kind of sweet floral cardamom. It's, again, at the top, it's similar to La Nuit de l'Homme, but it's kind of a bit fresher. It's got like a fresher, almost greener kind of opening to La Nuit de l'Homme. That's kind of what I get at the top. It's definitely, it's got some sweetness to it in the opening, but it's not as kind of sexy and sweet as La Nuit. It's kind of got some sort of fresh greenness to it. That might be the Tagites, I don't know. I don't really know what that smells like. I'm not going to bullshit you. But yeah, and then as it kind of goes into the mids, which takes, I mean, what I will say is this fragrance does develop a little bit. It's not linear. I've always found it a bit weird that people moan that a fragrance like is linear. Like they see that as a negative. It's like, oh, it just doesn't develop, it stays the same. And I've never really seen the problem with that. If you like the opening, I'm happy for it to stay like the opening. Like, I liked how my wife looked when I met her when she was like 23. I would very much like her to still look like that now, but unfortunately she doesn't. So, you know, I would like my wife to be linear and not develop and change and just stay how she looked at 23 years old. But unfortunately, that's not the case. At the top, you get this kind of fresh, slightly sweet, almost greener version of La Nuit. Then as it goes into the mids, it becomes like a little bit more powdery, and the lavender kind of comes through a little bit. So it's kind of like this sort of floral powderiness, which kind of gives it this, it's kind of a bit more, it's not as sexy sweet as La Nuit, but it's kind of got this sort of more mature, kind of confident sort of vibe going on. Then after about 50 minutes to an hour, it sort of fully dries down and it does develop a little bit further. In the base, the sort of patchouli and the vetiver start coming through. And again, it's still got a La Nuit vibe going on, but it's like a sort of earthier kind of version. I mean, it's not really earthy. It's kind of, the vetiver gives it this sort of cleanness, but the vetiver and the patchouli kind of give it this slight earthiness to it, which again gives it this nice kind of clean, mature kind of vibe going on. Now, when I say mature, don't kind of think that I'm saying this fragrances are for, you know, over 40s, over 50s, it's like old manish. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is this is not Invictus. This is not a teenage clubbing kind of fragrance. That's not what this is. I think this is an absolute banging office fragrance. I mean, I think you could wear this kind of, again, if you're over 30, I think you could wear this on a date and going out. It's really versatile. You know, this will fit in any situation, but I think it works so well in the office because it's just, it's clean, it's fresh, and above all else, it's unique as well. I know I keep comparing it to La Nuit, but it is different. It's definitely different to La Nuit. So, you know, I don't think you can confuse the two, but it's kind of got those vibes, but it is unique because nobody's going to be wearing this. Nobody's going to even fucking heard of it. I mean, I can't decide if it'll garner compliments or not, if it's just one of those fragrances that's just like a nice, solid, clean fragrance that people almost expect, that kind of they go, you know, they might think that you smell nice because you're smelling clean, but they might not think, you know, they're not dropping their panties, so they're not going to kind of, you know, throw out the compliments. I don't know. But I think it's an absolute banging office fragrance. So we've got a £16 fragrance that's presented really well, that smells really nice and develops and is really versatile and, you know, but especially good in the office. So now you're thinking the performance is shit, in it though, Steve. Well, you know what? You're wrong. It's really not. It lasts. It absolutely lasts. I got 8-9 hours out of this easy. Now, just to manage expectations, it is not beast mode projector. It kind of wears a little bit like an EDP. So I got some reasonable projection in the sort of 1 to 2 hours. It was kind of medium projection. And then it started kind of coming in a little bit closer, and it was, I wouldn't say a skin scent for the whole of that time, because I did keep getting wafts of it, but it certainly kind of wears a lot closer. So again, it just kind of works well in the office environment where you don't want to choke people out, and you don't want a kind of beast mode projector where, you know, Doris trying to print off some stuff is, you know, kind of coughing and gagging because you're, you know, choking her out with your fragrance. So that's not going to happen. So that again works really well. So yeah, I got, as I say, sort of 1 to 2 hours of sort of quite good projection, and then a couple of hours, well, for another 3 or 4 hours, I kept getting quite a lot of wafts of the fragrance, and it went on, and I kept smelling it, and I could, you know, up close, I could still smell it where I'd applied it 8 or 9 hours later. So the performance is killer. So I've absolutely waxed lyrical about this fragrance. So I do just want to kind of bring some balance to it and kind of manage some expectations. What I will say is, as much as I could highly, highly recommend this fragrance, and some of you will love this, what I will say is it's not a fragrance that excites me. It's just not, for me personally, it's not kind of got any kind of particular notes or chords that kind of really kind of, you know, give me a semi. It's kind of, you know, it's a really solid fragrance. It's clean, it's fresh, it's a little bit green, you know, a little bit powdery. So it's a really good fragrance, but I wouldn't kind of be excited to wear it kind of every day. It's not, you know, some of the things in my collection, some of the fragrances I love so much, and I actually, you know, get like excited and look forward to wearing. I don't think this would be one of them. So this is not that. So if you don't have many fragrances and you want a really cheap, versatile signature scent for the office, and save your sexy kind of panty droppers for the evening or whatever, or the office party, then this is it. This is great. It's like 16 quid. So yeah, that's the only thing I would say. I mean, for me personally, I would say the dry down is, I wouldn't say the dry down is really earthy, but the veteran patchouli is probably a little bit earthier than what I would personally prefer. But I know loads of you, that's just me. I'm not a particular kind of earthy kind of guy, where a lot of you are. But I emphasize it's not really earthy. It doesn't kind of turn me off. It's not a problem. It's just, that accord doesn't kind of tick my boxes. So there you go, that's Yohji Yamamoto's Y3 Black Label, which I can thoroughly recommend as a really versatile, really well performing, cheap fragrance that you can rock as a signature scent, particularly in the office. But it's just not a really, really exciting fragrance, but for the money, you can't really go wrong. Thank you for watching. I hope you got something out of this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And as always, if you haven't done so, please hit that subscribe button. It's helping me reach my goal of 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It's looking a bit tight, but hopefully we should do it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you for the next one. Much love.